The P in Pokemon stands for patch. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet demand this more than probably any game in the franchise ever before, and it seems like players are just really hungry for this stuff to get fixed. I've got resident Pokemon expert Joseph with me today, and we're going to talk about the very first Pokemon Scarlet and Violet patch, because even though I will, cheer for this game from the mountaintops, it does have problems, right? Like we can't deny that.
Obviously it's a hot topic, but I think it's very important to say that it is a fun game, but absolutely it is not okay the shape it was put out in. That is very much, I think, an obvious truth at this point.
100%. And I hope people know that our champion of the game never discounts, yes, it needs fixes. So that's the focus for today. Let us know how you feel about this at this point in time. But basically, the first big patch. All right, we expect that the first big patch is going to deliver performance fixes first and foremost. But when is it coming? What will be included? And how will it be unveiled? That's what we're digging deep into today. And I have up here a look back. I think always the best way to predict the future is to look to the past, as I don't know, Morgan Freeman probably said in some movie. So we look at Scarlet and Violet, we look at Sword and Shield, we look at Legends Arceus. Sword and Shield is probably the best example, Joseph, because it came out, in this November slot, and then they patched it heavy January 9th. That was their first big 1.1 patch, and that was, effectively just shy of 2 months, a month and change after release. They added in Galarian Slowpoke because they also announced the DLC on this day, and that is really just the first interesting thing, because I don't know if TPC can announce DLC until they separately drop a patch.
I think the major problem that they have to deal with, unfortunately, with this game is, unlike Sword and Shield, which were generally well received, it was another game that was very much just, this is Pokemon, this is good, home console, there's still a lot of issues, but at least it's what we've come to know, right? Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are in an interesting situation now because they are overachieving in terms of what a Pokemon game is, but underachieving in how it should be performing. So while I think the patch in January for Sword and Shield was an awesome addition, we are now in the situation that whatever patch comes for Scarlet and Violet is necessary. So it's no longer a fun, I can't wait to see what they add. It's more like a, please, Game Freak, fix what we have first before the DLC drops, I think is what a lot of people probably are feeling. But I do know that a lot of people are also very much against DLC until the game is fixed. So
yeah,
it's an uphill battle.
If you're 30 hours into the game, maybe you're just more excited for it. That's where I kind of sit. I do want it to be fixed, but I also want to be a realist here. And this game shipped 10 million copies in 3 days. So as maybe sucky as it is to say, I don't think that the performance issues are going to throw the Pokemon Company, Nintendo, Game Freak off of their calendar. So if their calendar was DLC immediately, I think we get DLC immediately. But the interesting thing here is that I do believe Nintendo has read the room better lately. I do feel like they have made some strides in that direction. Remember the N64 emulator, right? The N64 is part of the expansion pack. That came out nowhere near as rough as this, but rough. And they made effective changes quickly. They went behind the scenes and they worked on it. If we look at Legends Arceus, the patch there came out about 1 month after, which would be around December 17th, December 18th. I wonder if they can squeeze in a performance patch and then move forward with DLC early next year. I think the issue you're going to run up into is, as we know, most companies, December is sort of a wash with the holidays, and with all the time off. Do they have enough time to get this thing rolling? Because games today, they come in hot, right? There was a day one patch for Scarlet and Violet that apparently fixed some stuff, but not enough. I don't know if they can get a patch in before the end of the year.
And honestly, even if they do, unfortunately, I think the damage is already dealt in terms of what the bugs are. Because if we're going to be completely honest of the situation, there are a lot of bugs. There's a lot of visual glitches that people are running into. There are just a lot of things that could have been tightened up. That's very true. But the core game and what it is I think executing on everything Game Freak thought it would. And if not even more, I think people who are enjoying the game across the board are probably a lot more receptive to this than any other Pokemon game that has come out recently. People feel so much more strongly about this one for a reason. Unfortunately, because of the bugs, though, I think it's creating this kind of false idea of what the game is and what it needs. So my issue is, let's say they do put out a patch. The visual bugs are fixed, at least to an extent, so people are having to do a lot less. We're not seeing them have to reset their game, stuff like that, like just fixes like that. Does it fix the, I guess, negative connotation that the game has garnered up to this point? Because I almost feel like hating on the game is the fun thing to do for people now.
Yeah, well, we'll bring up the thing about VGC, because that is another component of this that I think, before we kind of get into our predictions of what's going to go down, that does add maybe a necessity for some of this stuff. Because on one hand, you do have the visual bugs and glitches, but then you also have some of the gameplay bugs, and I feel like for what the Pokemon Company cares about, I feel like maybe that actually takes priority for them.
Yeah, so essentially what Zach and I were talking about a little bit before this is literally as of today, while we're recording this, earlier, there was a post on Twitter that basically called out a little bit of a problem that's going on with the VGC, which is like the doubles battle, the competitive scene that Pokemon has been really trying to build for years and is finally coming to this big crescendo with supposedly what is supposed to be the best competitive game. The issue is that people are able to find ways to kind of mess up the RNG seed and essentially guarantee things like OHKO moves, so like one-hit KO moves such as Sheer Cold, which are usually very low % chances of hitting. The problem with this is that it now becomes an issue of, do they outright ban this and all the Pokemon that have the ability to do it? If they do that, then there's a lot of teams that are now completely non-negotiable, can't be saved. You can't use these Pokemon because they have access to this. Or are we going to have to play around this? And it's creating this huge discourse in the competitive community, because now it's like, if Game Freak doesn't resolve this, the VGC starts December 1st, which is coming up very, very fast.
Soon.
Yeah. And if this isn't fixed, it is going to play a major part in how Pokemon are going to be played, what teams
busted.
are going to be played. And exactly. It's just busted. And the unfortunate truth is that, now people are starting to be like, oh, this is very reminiscent of Red and Blue, which also had a lot of unintended coding issues with moves and stuff. And it's just going right back to the same narrative of these games are rushed or not put together.
Yeah, time has got to be ticking. And, I know a lot of people view this as sort of like, oh, they don't care. They sold 10 million. They're going to sell 30 million copies, maybe 40 million. Like, they're just raking in the cash. I understand that that's sort of like the easy quick take, but I really don't think from the developers and the publishers that I have, had an opportunity to talk to over the last 13 years, I've never got the sense that people just love their game being screwed up and raking in the cash. Like, I don't remember, there's a lot of humans involved here. It's not just conglomerates. So there's personal pride, there's personal reputation, there's personal just like care and empathy on the line here. So I do think they're going to work hard to change as much as they can and to fix this. I'm also wondering, Joseph, if Fire Emblem Engage plays a bit of a role in their timeline. Now, maybe it doesn't, but we know Fire Emblem Engage is coming out January 20th. That is a big JRPG. I don't know if Nintendo wants to drop DLC announcement trailer on January 9th like they did for Sword and Shield and sort of take a little bit of the wind out of Fire Emblem Engage's sale. So maybe there's a perfect storm scenario here. We know that Nintendo loves a February Direct. Maybe they can work on the performance, work on these sort of game-breaking doubles bugs, and maybe they can fix the game up, and then come February when we have a Direct, allow for the expansion pass, which we're expecting, to be similar to Sword and Shield, a two-parter, to then be revealed maybe in calmer waters in early February.
I want to say the bright side of it is, at least we are in a situation that they can absolutely weather. They could make this work. It's just they really have to be on it. And I think that's where people start to get a little worried.
Yeah, the way I expect this to go is I expect we get one, maybe two patches, depending on how much time they have and how they sort of spread this out, that are really just focused on addressing issues. I don't think we'll see them drop in a new Pokemon. I don't think we'll see them drop in a new quest. I think we'll see them release something, hopefully, early December or early January, that does offer some fixes. And I am very excited for DLC. I want to know where we go. I mean, after the ending, please tell me where we're going next. But I do understand that there is an obligation to put this game out. And I think sometimes it's a bit overblown, but this idea that Nintendo drops these unfinished games and then DLC is kind of their cure, right? We'd love for them not to say that. And just for the online discourse, man, I hope Pokemon patches and then DLCs, because I think if we come January 9th and they drop a DLC trailer and there haven't been bug fixes, there haven't been performance fixes, here we go again. It's another, deep sea volcanic explosion rocking the entire continent of Pokemon fans, and you and I have to sit here and weather that storm. And frankly, I don't want to do that again. Yeah, it's
definitely been probably the most stressful Pokemon release, because the reality is they put out a game that is, in terms of what a Pokemon game is, probably the best. Not probably. I will go on record and saying this is my favorite Pokemon game that has ever released. It has made me feel things I have not felt from a Pokemon game pretty much ever. And I know, I'm sure a lot of people have heard about that end game. A lot of people are finally getting to that end game. It is worth every second of your time to get to that point. And what they're setting up with this DLC that is 100% guaranteed at this point. We've known this from before the game was announced. The game itself does a lot of hinting in post-game through lore bits and through other legendaries that clearly they're trying to build something big here. Yeah, I think this patch could do wonders for the game even without DLC, but the DLC is definitely what I'm most excited for,
For sure. Yeah, I think, they can cement themselves as one of the most top tier Switch titles, right up there with Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, if they can get this stuff under control. And I don't know. I have faith that they will. I know they have the cash, they have the money, but I still think they want to make this game the best that it can be. And we've seen a history of patches, maybe not a ton of patches, but look, Sword and Shield, had its 1.1, its 1.2, its 1.3. So I fully expect some of these issues to get resolved. How much they'll get resolved, are we seeing a 10% bump, or are we saying a 80% bump? I don't know. But yeah, right now I'm saying patch ASAP, kind of a 50-50 shot if they get it out before the end of the year, and then save that DLC for the Direct, and deliver us a banging February Direct that has, Hollow Knight, Silksong, some Tears of the Kingdom gameplay, and Pokemon DLC right there. Those three alone, we're sitting real nice for 2023.
Yeah. For sure.
So that should be good. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. We getting a patch? If they do drop DLC trailer before patch, are you rioting? Please don't, but let us know if you're going to anyways in the comments down below. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay playing Pokemon until the end game, where you can really realize that they accomplished something that's so impressive on the Switch. But until that time, everybody, thanks again for watching. SwitchForce out.